Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Cheatham. Appreciate this opportunity to be here again to speak to you about a number of different things. One that has to do with the Wilmington Fire Department's deployment plan and also the update on the Cinema Drive facility. My presentation objectives tonight are to provide you an update on something that we brought to you back in 2011, which was a redeployment plan for our fire department, and to also update you on the Cinema Drive Fire Station project. A history about how we got here. Back in 2006, just before I arrived, the company called ECSI had done an assessment of the Wilmington Fire Department, and one of the things that they indicated in that assessment is that some of our stations were in dire need of either replacement or renovation. They were old, and I'll share with you the years that they were built in shortly. But of the number of different things that they indicated other than those fire stations was that we needed a process by which we were providing either mutual aid or could be provided mutual aid or automatic aid. And they were also a little bit critical of our fleet replacement schedule that we had in place at the time that the assessment was done. We came to you a number of years ago and recommended a redeployment of our assets, basically a different strategy for how we were going to fight fires. At the particular time, if you remember, we had engine companies, truck companies, and something we called quints. And the quints served two purposes. They could either be a ladder or an engine, depending on how were they deployed. And I'm sure many of you remember this from our presentation that we did a few weeks ago at City Council. We also indicated that during that redeployment plan that we were going to start a system of automatic aid. And we have reached out and very successfully partnered with New Hanover County Fire Department. They both provide us aid inside the city of Wilmington, and we also provide them aid outside the city of Wilmington. As a part of this process, we also have a regional incident management system, which everybody in this region is using. We have established regional tactical guidelines. We have programmed a fleet replacement schedule with the help of the city manager. Every piece of apparatus that we own has been programmed to be replaced on an automatic basis, funding provided, but it is identified. And we have the same number of fire companies. They are just in a different configuration. The important thing is in all this is while we recommended the reduction, and I'll talk about that in a minute, of two particular fire facilities, the City Council and City Manager supported for our community no reduction in staffing. We have the same number of firefighters that we had back when we made this, and we will have the same number of firefighters when this deployment model is completely done. As you can see from the slide up here, this is a slide that shows our facility locations. The facility locations in red, which are Carolina Beach, Wellington Avenue, the golf course property, Impey Park, and Princess Place fire stations are the ones that were indicated for replacement or significant renovation. As you are well aware, we already built the Impey Park Fire Station. The funding was provided for that. We came to you several years ago and proposed a platform where what we would do is close all four of those older, outdated facilities, and we would build two new facilities that were located in an area where they could access a majority of our calls in that particular area. So in effect, we recommended a system where we would go from 11 facilities down to 9 facilities, and you can see those. The yellow that you see up here that I'm pointing to are the new facilities that we're recommending. And this one is the Cinema Drive facility, which is going to be new Company 3. And the other is the Shipyard facility off of Shipyard Road. And as you're aware, we have already purchased property for both of those particular fire stations. Okay, one of the other things that is important to all this is that we have established a benchmark for how we serve this community. We provide a benchmark for how we measure our success. And that benchmark is made up of several different processes. One is the call processing time, or the time it takes to get the call from the communication center out to the fire station. The other is the reaction time for the firefighters. That's from the time that we are notified that there is an alarm until the firefighters are actually on the truck and responding. And then, of course, we have travel time. That adds up to, we also have indicated a response time for a first arriving unit, and that depends on the type of hazard. And then we have something called an effective fire response force. Depending on the type of hazard that we are responding to, that could be anywhere from 17 to 24 people. Now, the important thing to realize about this is we measure ourselves according to something called the 90th percentile. So if you could imagine for a second that the 50th percentile would be average. If you took all the numbers and you put them together and you went to the middle, you would hit the average or the 50th percentile. What we say is that we want to benchmark ourselves in that 90% of all of our calls will be over the 90th percentile. So less than 10% of all the calls we take will mean that we are arriving on scene in 7 minutes and 30 seconds or more. And I'll show you a graph that will show that very plainly in just a second. So you'll be familiar with this graph. This is the one that we showed you before. This is the same measurements, except for this is two different configurations. And the orange is where we fall outside of that 90th percentile, or that 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, there's a couple things that you have to realize when you're looking at this. One, in general, the areas that we can't reach, we can't reach. That's not a product of whether or not the facility is located in the right place. It has to do with the access to the facility. For instance, if you look at landfall, that whole area landfall is basically orange because there are only basically 2 or 3 ways to get in and out of landfall. So that limits our access to be able to get a number of apparatus in there very quickly, even though we have a fire station that sits right on the edge of landfall. The other thing that you should know about this map is that it reads road connectivity. So where there is no road, there is orange. If you look at the college area, because of the closure of Station 4, or the recommended closure of Station 4, some of that area grows by which means it's over 4 minutes and 30 seconds. What you should know about that is that doesn't mean, that could very well mean that it's 4 minutes 37 seconds. Or 4 minutes, 45 seconds. It doesn't mean that it goes from 4:30 to 15 minutes. So there are degrees to which we can access these places. But by virtue of our benchmark, we don't change. We say, we're going to benchmark ourselves for this whole city at the 90th percentile at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and that's what we do. The other area I might demonstrate down here is, you see this whole landfall area. We can't get in that landfall. There's no roads there. And there's nothing there, so the computer program will not read the tracking on the road. River lights, I'm sorry. We also very conservatively estimate our travel time on these roads. So when we get to secondary roads, we program in 25 miles an hour, even though the apparatus in some cases might be going 35 or 40 miles an hour. But that's the difference in the modeling and what we get real time, because we are able to model with real-time data to demonstrate our performance, and that's kind of what we do. This is a chart showing the current and proposed incident distribution. One of the problems that we have here is we don't have a lot of activity for a lot of our particular areas. And so you can see that the gray in this chart shows an existing distribution for calls. And then what we did is we modeled out what would be the distribution of calls based on the new or the elimination of the other facilities. And you can see that in most cases, the red goes up, which is good because that means that our current facilities are being more effectively utilized. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. This shows you the current and proposed incidents covered. As I mentioned, it shows the 90th percentile. This is modeled both current and future incidents. And you can see that we are very comfortable that what we are proposing is going to cover our citizens adequately. So the status of where we're at with that deployment plan. MP Park number 2 station is built. Thank you very much for that, Council. We have a fleet replacement schedule that is in place. The manager has worked with the fire department to make sure that each of our apparatus is appropriately placed in that fleet replacement plan. The shipyard, the property has been purchased for the Cinema Drive facility, which is located right there at Shipyard and Carolina Beach Road. And of course, you've also purchased a piece of property on Cinema Drive for the new Cinema Drive Fire Station, which I'll talk to in just one second. We have a design back for the Cinema Drive that has been approved by council, and we do have bids that are back for Cinema Drive, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So now I want to pause just a second, because one of the controversies we have in the fire department is we generally focus on everything's broken. Well, in general, let me tell you that there is reason to celebrate. If you look at this list, this is all 11 of our facilities that we have up there. And if you notice 3, 4, 5, and 6, we have a facility that was built 42 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and 29 years ago. We have gotten great service from those facilities. When we get the 2 new facilities, our oldest facility will basically be a facility that was built in 1999. That is a tremendous commitment on behalf of these citizens to provide our firefighters with modern, up-to-date, great facilities from which to operate from. And along with our fleet, believe me when I tell you that a vast majority of our citizens are very, very appreciative of everything the council has done to provide us a professional environment to get our work done. So that's an update on on our deployment plan and where we're at. This is the rendering for Cinema Drive Fire Station, a fire station that was designed primarily by our firefighters to be both efficient in the way that it operates internally, and also, I think, pleasing to the eye from a firefighter's perspective.